right, we're rolling.
Today on After Drive, Mr. Saab is on the couch.
I'm back.
From back behind the camera. Did you press play?
I did.
I mean record? I
Yeah.
hope you didn't press play.
We're recording.
Today it's another BRZ or that. It's a Mr. Saab themed BRZ or that. Do you buy the most hyped sports car in the history of sports cars, or do you buy something else? That's today on After Drive. Welcome to another BRZ or that, and this is the segment where you guys tell us whether buying the BRZ, the most hyped sports car in the history of sports cars, or the other thing is the right thing to do. And today we've got Mr. Saab, Ian Whalen, from out behind the camera.
Thanks for having me.
Sitting down on the couch. Hey, no problem. Why wouldn't I have you? Because Mr. Saab here on After Drive has a little bit of a dilemma. And now we already asked you on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/DriveTV and @Drive on Twitter. We asked you the question, but Ian, why don't you tell me what your dilemma is with this car right here?
Well, this is my 2002 Saab 9.3 Viggen, and it's kind of a rare car. They only made about 4,600 Viggens from 1999 to 2002.
Well, by the way, what does Viggen mean in Swedish?
Viggen means thunderbolt in Swedish, and
Thunderbolt.
It was named after one of the fighter jets that Saab built.
Oh, sweet. All right.
So this was kind of their hot rod, a little bit of like an M3 fighter at the time, and it had the 2.3 liter engine from the 9.5, and it had, the early ones had 230 horsepower, and at the end it was kind of rumored that they had 250, even though that wasn't said to the public. And it's a fun car. It has sport suspension and sport seats, and it only came manual transmission. And it's rare. This year was the last year, and they only brought in 71 3-doors. And this is kind of the ultimate.
That's pretty rare. I didn't realize actually that this was that rare.
Yeah. So I've always had Saabs. I've had old 900 turbos, and I eventually got this. So this is kind of the ultimate.
So you've reached the pinnacle of the old Saab, the sort of the traditional Saab construct right here.
Right.
So what just happened?
I think the VTEC just kicked in, yo.
That went much better in rehearsal. And why do we have the VTEC just kicking in, yo? Is that because you are now thinking of buying an S2000?
I am. I think this is probably the furthest thing away from my Saab 9.3.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about why in a second, but so what's your thinking? So why exactly? So why do you want to get rid of your Saab? You're Mr. Saab. Why do you want to get rid of that?
I don't know. I like other cars too, and I think it would be fun to try something completely different.
Completely different. Because I guess you can't get too much further different, I guess, from a Saab than the rear drive, high revving S2000.
Right.
And now this one's the second gen. AP2, this is the one you want. This is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I like this one a little bit better. I like the way it looks, and it's a little more, I don't know, it makes a little more sense for the roads we have around here with a little more torque than the AP1.
So the AP1 was the one that revved to 8,300 or something like that. It was 240 horsepower, 8,300.
That was the peak. It went up to 9,000.
Right, the red line was 9,000,
Yeah.
right? So that was the highest red line up to that point of any car.
I think so.
Of any street car?
Probably.
I think so. All right. Well, if I'm wrong, you guys will let me know, I'm sure. But this one, peak torque was around 7,500 on the first gen. Then they brought it down to like 6,400 or 6,500. So they made it a little bit easier to drive around town.
And they changed the gearing too.
They changed the gearing too, so you didn't have to rev it out to drive it around.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing with that's to me that's the cool thing about the first gen is just how you rev the snot out of it just to get anything streetable out of it. But so you want this one just because it's a little bit easier on the street.
Yeah, and I actually kind of they gave it kind of a facelift in 2004, and they did the interior a little bit. I like how it looks. So.
Yeah. Do you like the red seats?
I could take them or leave them. You know,
I'm just saying, I bought a car with red seats because I got a good deal on it, and I regret the red seats every day. I'm going to eventually replace them. So I don't know if you, but I kind of like the way they look here with the gray.
I love the gray, and I think this was the color interior you would just get with the gray.
So okay, so let's compare this car with the Saab, right? So as we mentioned, that the figures that we mentioned were the first gen. The second gen, 240 horsepower at 7,700 RPM, 162 pounds-feet at 6,500 RPM, and 2,835 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So pretty light, I mean, by modern standards, right?
Yeah.
Not a featherweight, but not bad.
Right, it's not a Lotus Elise, but it's still a pretty lightweight car.
Exactly. So let's compare that with your Viggen. So that's a 2.3-liter turbocharged 4.
Yeah.
Right.
That engine is all about torque.
Right.
Your torque comes on full blast at 2,500 RPM on that car.
Exactly. 250 pounds-feet at 2,500, 230 horsepower at 5,500. So, you know, not as high revving as the kind of a completely different driving experience.
And it's front-wheel drive.
And
just for the record, mine has a Quaife limited slip differential, which didn't come with the Viggens, but it really, really helps when you have all that power going through the front wheels.
Right. So first question really is, should Mr. Saab stop being Mr. Saab and start being Mr. Honda?
Yeah.
That's huge right there.
It is really huge, because I'm generally a European car guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not usually a Honda guy. I don't really have anything against them, but I always liked the NSX, and I always thought the S2000 was a really cool car because they're just so unique in the market.
Right.
This car doesn't really have that many equals in price point, especially now on the used market.
Right.
I mean, you can look at the Miata, but it's not as well powered, and it's a little bit different. I like how this looks.
Right. So a little bit more expensive. I mean, this is going in the low 20s right now for a decent one.
Yeah.
And the Viggen, if you could find a Viggen, I mean, there aren't that many.
There's not that many, and a lot of them are not in really good shape anymore.
Yeah.
Mine is in really good shape, so I'm thinking it's worth about $10,000.
Okay, so figure half the price of an AP2 Honda S2000.
Yeah.
So let's compare the S2000 to the BRZ.
Okay.
Okay. So BRZ is obviously 2-liter flat 4, naturally aspirated, 200 horsepower at 7,000, so 700 revs less. Only 151 pounds-feet at 6,400 versus 162 at 6,500 for the S2000, right? So actually pretty similarly matched.
Yeah, and the weight is close. I mean, these are
right. Weight
really
2762 for the BRZ and 2835 for the S2000.
Yeah.
27 or 28 grand for a new BRZ.
Yeah.
And as we said, low 20s,
Yeah.
high teens
Yeah.
for this guy. Now, by the way, this guy is going for it. I don't know. Do you know that guy?
I think you might know him. He's probably one of your
like an
auto-journalist friends.
I probably do, but he's totally going for it.
Good for him. Looks
He's
like fun.
apexing. Anyway, it's a fun car.
Yeah.
Completely different than the Saab, and the BRZ. BRZ and the S2000 are pretty closely matched. So what should Mr. Saab do? Should Mr. Saab become Mr. Honda or Mr. Subaru?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go for the Subaru, even though I do think it's a fun car to drive.
Emperor Subaru.
I don't love the way it looks. It's a little bit overly designed in my eyes. I actually like the simplicity of the S2000.
Right.
It's a little more classic, and I think it'll age pretty well.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they're similar, but you're right. You can tell the modern stylized lines and stuff in the new BRZ are totally different. Different cars, obviously, but this is about what you guys think.
Right.
What should Mr. Saab do?
Right. And I haven't decided if I'm going to get rid of the 9.3 yet.
So you might have to keep it just because it's so rare.
Yeah, I think I'm going to regret getting rid of this car someday.
But wait a minute, did we get to the heart of why you want to get rid of it? You just want something different?
I just want something different. Also, I don't drive it enough, and Saab parts are not always cheap.
Yeah.
So for a car that I don't drive that much, even if it's not worth that much, it still costs what a $40,000 car would cost to repair sometimes. So
yeah, it's true.
It's a little bit difficult sometimes to justify keeping this car.
Right. Well, Mr. Saab, it's up to them,
Yeah.
kind of. So what do you guys think? BRZ or that? S2000 for Mr. Saab or a new BRZ? We await your decision-making processes. And just let us know down below. That's After Drive for today. Don't forget, www.drivetv, @Drive on Twitter, facebook.com/DriveTV. That's After Drive. We'll see you guys next week.